All right, so for this other video, this is going to be coming exactly right after the weapon switch. So remember, for the weapon switch, what I had was I created a new emitter that is going to be spawning as soon as the chair bullet is destroyed in the world. And whenever that is happening as well, I'm going to be spawning a new chair. So that is my bullet chair. It's basically shipping compressed chairs. I created a new pickup. It's basically a duplicate of the template, and this thing is going to be generating that new bullet pickup that I have over here. But now the important part that is going to be coming here is that I want to create a new weapon, or basically create something that I can attach to this thing. So it's really simple. If I want to select what is the type of bullet that I want to shoot, and for that I can just generate a new variable. So I'm gonna select this, and this is going to be of the type integer, and this is going to be the variable name is gonna change to selection. Well, let's call that weapon selection, because that makes a little bit more sense. And once I hit compile, I'm going to have that variable selection at 0. So if this is 0, I should be able to shoot that. I'm going to be making a switch down here. So I'm going to say, hey, switch. The whole functionality is going to be exactly the same as I had it previously. So this is going to be switch on integer. So switch on integer. And if the action is my input key 0, then that is going to spawn this chair. Although I already created that weapon selection, so I'm just going to drag and drop it to connect it in here. And I can, in fact, change all of these into a function, which is going to make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to select all of these 3 pins, and now we'll go to functions. And actually, I can just right click and say collapse to function. And the function is going to be switch weapon. Now that I have that switch weapon, that is going to be taking the spawn transformation and so forth. So I can double click on that. That is going to be showing me the code. Now there's not much that I have added in here. So I'm going to click on the pin, and the value of default, that is the thing that is going to be spawning actually the value of 1 is the thing that is going to be spawning a chair, because I want my value default to be spawning something else. Now this is going to be changing the return type and what have you, but I'm going to get a duplicate. I just need to say Control D, and then I'm going to connect 0 and default that. And instead of a chair, what I will be spawning in this case is going to be my bullet. So this is going to be big bullet. The transformation needs to be connected as well. So I'm going to hit compile and save. And let's try that. Right now, my weapon selection is having a value of 0. So I'm going to hit compile. Let's try that code. I'll get in here, and there. I'm shooting a regular silver bullet that is bouncing. Now, if I select that thing as a value of 1, what I should be shooting is going to be the compressed chair. So I'm going to go back here. I'm not going to shoot. There you go. Beautiful. Now, the important part for me here is that I want to be able to communicate that I want to call this. So I will be making a new function, and this function is going to be basically setting up the value of that weapon selection. So I will create a new function, and this one is going to be increment weapon. And then what this is going to do for me is going to add 1 to the weapon selection. So I'm going to say get the weapon first and also set the weapon. So I'm going to select these. I will add, and then I'm going to connect these over here. So this is at this point saying, hey, add 1. So I'm adding 1. I'm looping up. But at the same time, that might get me out of bounds, and that's where the default is selected. So another thing that I want to check is the maximum number of weapons that I have selected. So I'm going to say new variable. New variable is number of weapons. And so my weapons at that stage, let me compile, are going to be just 2 weapons. I have the default and I have the other one. So what I need to say is if I loop after, I will revert back. So that stage, what I'm going to do is call branch. So let's say branch. And then the condition is I already went too far. So this is going to be requiring the modulus operator. So modulus on, and the value is going to be the number of weapons, modulus of 2. And then that is going to be, actually, I don't need a branch anymore. I just need to do this check right here before I connect it. There you go. So this is going to first take the value and increment 1. Then it's going to operate a modulus operator. This is going to basically loop around the value. So if I say a number of weapons is 2, as soon as this hits 2, that is going to return a value to 0. And then that is just going to be set on the weapon selection. So that is my increment weapon. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is create another function. And this function is going to be decrement weapon. So I have increment weapon and decrement weapon. Now, decrement weapon is going to take the number of, take the weapon that I have, get the value, and then I'm going to subtract 1 from it. So here I can do 1. And then what I'm going to do is check if this is lower than 0. So what I will say in this case is the range that I was mentioning earlier. And then this is going to be if this is less than and the value of 0, then weapon selection, set the value, it's going to get 0. So I will never go below 0. On the other case, if my weapon is within the range, I'm going to just set the value on the selection, and the value is going to be the same way. So I should have increment my weapon and decrement my weapon. So I'm going to put these, and I'm going to try to just make it a little easy on the eyes. Put that over here. Perfect. So I have both my increment and my decrement. So now down here on my event graph, what I want to do is be able to, test my code. So very quickly, I'm just going to create a new event. So event scroll event wheel up. That is going to increment. So I will basically can just do this call, increment my weapon. And then if I do a wheel down, it's going to decrement my weapon. So increment and decrement. So let's try our code. Another thing that I can do to test this would be print a string. And the thing that I want to print out is going to be my weapon selection. So it's going to change it for me. I'll connect these as well to the print. So compile and let's run it. So right now I created that. So that's going to be 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. I'm just going to do in between. If I go 1, I can decrement to 0, and then that's always going to stay at 0 if I go to the other way. One thing that I can do in order to make this a little bit better would be instead of 0, just say, well, the weapon selection is going to be the number of weapons, okay, number of weapons, and then subtract 1 from it. That way it's always going to be giving me the last one. I need to subtract 1, otherwise it's going to get out of bounds. Then I won't be able to shoot anything. So let's see. I'm going to select that. I'm going to shoot a cube. Then scrolling up, bullet, cube, bullet, cube, and then on the other hand, bullet, cube, and I am able to just go and do that with switching my scroll wheel. Just need to go up and down, and I can create events like these that are temporary. The better thing to do would be actually creating an input action and then just test it with that thing. But yeah, there's ways of increasing this functionality and making it better. Just call it from a spawner or something of the sort. But I'm just going to keep it simple right now, and it's going to stay that way. Right, so this is a version that is a little bit more advanced than what I show you. And for this one, I do unfortunately have to modify the first person character that is in the scene. So I will just show you what I did. On this one, I created a new weapon functionality, which is basically a new blueprint that is going to create that, it's going to attach itself to the object. It's pretty much the same as the static mesh component or the skeletal mesh component that it's included with the project. But in this case, I will just create that weapon functionality. So I moved or migrated everything that I had on the other side, the increment weapon and decrement weapon and the selected weapon and whatnot. So this is going to be attached to the character in the first place at time of construction, so I can access it dynamically. So if I go to my first person character again, I just added that by saying, well, what is the name of the class? And that was a BP weapon functionality. So I created that and then I just basically attached that. So I have that weapon functionality and I can access that weapon functionality on the go. If I go here to my weapon component, as you can see, I have removed the increment with the scroller and whatnot. The bullet spawn, or I changed the name for the function to bullet spawn, and it is going to change the bullet based on what the value is for the other component. So what I have here is like, I want to spawn a bullet. What is the bullet I want to spawn? Well, first off, get the owner of this weapon component. Who is it? Make sure that that is a first person character. If that is a first person character, make sure that you spawn a weapon functionality, like get that information out of it. And then from there, you get the selected weapon. It's pretty much what I had over here, but I cannot select that in runtime as it stands. So I need to add the component first and then use this as an intermediary. So I have all of those. I connect the weapon switch. Now I will be selecting whether it's going to be a bullet or the other one. And then the rest of the code is basically the same thing. So the only real change that I did here was in my spawn bullet. I removed the code that was either letting me know what the weapon was and whatnot. That is part of now a new component that I created, that is a weapon functionality. Now in the event bar graph of the weapon functionality, I'm moving the wheel down and wheel up. Again, that is something that I can create an input action to and then just add it to the world. Increment weapon and decrement weapon is pretty much the same thing. It's going to stay the same. But now I have another blueprint. Now this time around is this one here. That is a basic functionality over here. If I open that up, I added that into my project as a weapon switch. This weapon switch is just an empty sphere or a simple sphere with a chair material, and I created a bounding sphere around that. And now this one in my event graph is just going to say every time that you overlap in something, check if that something is a BP first person character, and if so, gets its weapon functionality and increment the weapon. So every time that I go in, I am calling the function. And so I'm going to be using the actual actor to create that. So here I go in, I'm not scrolling, I'm just walking in. And every time that I walk in, as you can see, I'm switching the weapon, incrementing to the previous one that I have. So every time that I go in, I will be switching that. I could create other functionality inside. So I could potentially set a new functionality to say something like, instead of increment weapon, I can set that. I can create a new function, which I'm going to do super quickly. Set weapon. And then this is going to be receiving an input. That input is going to be an integer. So select the weapon, which is going to be an integer. And the only thing that is going to do for me is going to be set the selected weapon. So set this to that. Now, of course, I will basically need to check the increment weapon or decrement weapon functionality just to make sure that I'm not getting out of that. But in my case, I know that if I go to my weapon component, if I am 0, I'm going to be spawning that, or if I'm on 1, that's going to be spawning the chair. Now, the default value in the weapon functionality for the selected weapon is 1, but let's make that 0. And then every time that I go through my weapon switcher, over here, instead of incrementing the weapon, I can call the set weapon. And that weapon value is going to be set up as 1. Of course, if you know how to use enums, this is going to be way better. So I'm going to hit compile. And this time around, I'm forcing it to be the other one, right? So I'm going to be shooting that. And every time that I go in, it is always going to be shooting that. If I go in again, it is basically going to set that value again. So I will use the scroll wheel and choosing that weapon. And that's a really easy way to create functionality that is going to be communicating with the color blueprints. But that is it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.